think corporations pay their fair share? Pat Toomey thinks corporations shouldn't pay any taxes.
Let's not tax corporations. I think the solution is to eliminate corporate taxes altogether.
The middle class is struggling, but Toomey thinks it's oil companies and Wall Street banks who should pay no taxes. Zero. No wonder Toomey's been called Wall Street's congressman.
The solution is to eliminate corporate taxes altogether.
Pat Toomey, he's for them, not for us.
The gloves are off in the fight for the Senate seat in Pennsylvania after Democratic Congressman Joe Sestak rolled out his first campaign ad against his Republican contender, Pat Toomey. But will it be enough to convince the voters? Take a look at the latest poll of likely voters by Reuters. Sestak trails Toomey by 10 points. Joining us from Philadelphia, Congressman Joe Sestak. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me back.
Your opponent says that those statements were taken out of context, that you misrepresent his position. In fact, a spokesman for him said, Pat believes jobs come from cutting taxes and reducing deficits. Sestak believes jobs come from more Washington spending and a failed stimulus plan. Is that a fair representation?
Well, I always think it's best to let the opponent speak for himself, so that's why you saw Congressman Toomey say that he doesn't believe corporations pay taxes. It's interesting.
Well, what he says is that the point he was making, if it was taken in context, was that consumers ultimately pay for higher taxes on businesses. He's for lowering taxes on businesses.
Well, he's actually advocated what France has, a 30% tax increase on the middle class. He calls it a national tax. He actually wants corporations to have zero taxes, but for us, the working people, to have a tax increase. But worse than that, he wants to gut Social Security. He wants to privatize it in Wall Street. Even worse than that, he has said that he thinks China should have the right to subsidize their exports. He thinks that the loss of American jobs are just merely creative destruction. Congressman Toomey, probably the worst of it is that when he was president of what John McCain called the bag man for the ultra-rich, he was Club for Growth, wanted to purge the Republican Party of moderate Republicans. It's why I was glad to see Senator Hagel, Republican, endorse me. I come from the military. I think there are problems we have. We've got to face them together in a very pragmatic way. Take small businesses. For over a year and a half, I've advocated that small businesses should get tax credits. 15% for every new payroll job. I also have advocated that if you invest in a small business, because they do, as I said, create 80% of all new jobs, they should have zero capital gains. Let's focus on where the working families drive wealth up. Congressman Toomey believes wealth might trickle down from Wall Street. Just a different contrast here.
Congressman, we have a couple of our panelists who want to ask you some questions. Sam Stein.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, Congressman. How's it going?
Good. Good to talk to you again.
In your primary, you did a very crafty thing of tying Arlen Specter to George W. Bush, and I'm presuming that you're going to do the same with Pat Toomey. My question is, who's going to play a bigger role in your race? Is it going to be George W. Bush, or is it going to be Barack Obama?
The biggest one is going to be the working families of Pennsylvania. I really knew that during that primary. No, seriously.
Come on, you're stuck in the question.
Even a panel is groaning.
You all aren't from Pennsylvania. We're pretty commonsensical people. You saw that in the primary. People there aren't looking at this as a national race. They want to know, do I really want an extreme makeover by Congressman Toomey? You know, worked down in Hong Kong for a billionaire Chinese and actually worked on swaps that had China actually keep its yuan, its debt lower, so that we had our dollar higher, and therefore it cost us 97,000 jobs in Pennsylvania over the years? Or do they want somebody who grew up in the military and just wants to serve them by small business tax cuts, by educational opportunity? That's what they're going to focus on. I think people make too much, at least in Pennsylvania, of those who come from the outside.
Nat Lewis, I don't know if you're from Pennsylvania, but were you groaning along with the rest of the folks on our panel here?
My mom actually does live in Pennsylvania, and along those lines, though, let me ask you, Congressman. You obviously did come through a primary where you ousted an incumbent senator, and we've seen a phenomenon on the Republican side recently where when challengers beat incumbents, sometimes those incumbents aren't quick to endorse the nominee. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit. Has Senator Specter and Governor Rendell, have they been helping you as much as you need them to win this race?
Yeah, the primary was important for me because I wanted to demonstrate that, as John F. Kennedy once said, sometimes the party asks too much. And if my party's wrong, I'll always be on the side of the working family. But I had a nice discussion last week, a week before, with Senator Specter's son, and in calling again Senator Specter, Governor Rendell's been tremendous. He said anything you need, he's ready to help. And as you can see, we've had over, I think it's $5 million of special interest groups. Carl Rove and his special interest group, Club for Growth, where Congressman Toomey was the lobbyist for Wall Street's founded special interest groups, coming with a lot of ads. I'm going to come back to it. Pennsylvania's different. We're the sons and daughters, grandsons, daughters of steelworkers like I am, and that's what I think you'll see us making our decisions on a very pragmatic approach, and that's what I want to be, someone who can work across the aisles and solve problems, not use rhetoric, and that's, I think, is what you'll see, and willing to be held accountable and lose their job over doing what's right. I think that's what's most needed in the Senate.
Carl Bernstein.
I heard Bill Clinton introduce you one night in one of the great political speeches when you were running for Congress. Are you going to bring him up there to campaign for you?
Yes, he already came into Scranton for me, but unfortunately I had to be, well, fortunately I think for Pennsylvania, I had to be voting for the FMAP bill that prevented the Medicaid, that prevented 12,000 Pennsylvanians from losing their jobs. But better for me, my wife introduced him, and even better, my daughter Alex, who she adores him, and he was has always been very kind to her.
Is he going to be spending time up there in this race?
Yes, I just talked with them recently about a week ago, and they just want to know when and where, Joe.
Representative Joe Sestak, thanks very much. Sam
Thanks for having me.
Carl Bernstein, thanks to you as well.
Sam, thanks. Carl, go get on the LIE. Better
There
start
you go.
now. Thanks so much, guys.
Good to see you, Congressman.
Have a great weekend, everybody.